This guy found a way to do over $35 million in transactions in less than 2.5 years in one of New Jersey's most expensive markets. But what makes this 8-figure real estate empire unique is that it's built in a very unique business model. Today we're spending the day with Hector Rosero, CEO of Pilla Investments, and his sister Melanie, as they show us their exact system on how they're finding distressed deals on the MLS and how they're converting these ugly properties into 6-figure profits. We're visiting 3 active properties and getting the real numbers on what they paid, what they're spending, and what they'll profit. Plus, see how their business model is creating competitive advantages that individual investors simply can't replicate. From a construction business failure to an 8-figure real estate business in just 2.5 years, here's exactly how they did it and how you can apply that same blueprint so that you can build wealth in real estate, even in the most competitive markets. Alrighty, Hector, let's get straight to the point. You've done over $30 million in transactions in less than 2.5 years. Very impressive, but let's break it down.
So, flips. What does that mean? That means a house we buy that we're gonna go and renovate. Now it has some sort of problem, it's in bad shape. We go and either do heavy rehab, which is basically add bathrooms, put HVAC systems, just make the house better. Now we have gut renovations, which are really our bread and butter. That means properties that totally distressed, so everything needs to be brand new. And then we'll work on the internal layout, again, add bathrooms, and make it like brand new. Then we have add levels. Think of like a single story house, like a ranch. Then we go and we build the house on top of it. Yes, you basically double the square footage on the existing footprint. Then you have luxury development. These are properties that, you know, we're buying to build these grand houses, right? You're gonna see it later. You're gonna like it a lot.
Is it like straight from the ground up?
Straight, just dirt from the ground up.
Amazing.
And then the last category is 1 to 4 family houses, units here in Bergen County. It's very difficult to find, but buy them, make it so that someone wants to live there, rent it out, and then refinance.
Which is what you call the BRRRR method?
The BRRRR method, exactly. There you go. Someone's done a lot of research, huh?
Yeah. Okay, so Hector, before we go out and show the audience what it looks like to be a part of your day-to-day, let's talk about the team behind you. Because behind every CEO, there's an A-level team. So let's break it down.
So up here, you have the CEO. He's in charge of setting the vision, setting the strategic goals. Underneath, you have the operations manager, who's in charge of the entire operation. So she has to make sure that all this actually gets done, making people, you know, be accountable to the goal, and ultimately running the machine. Now, we have acquisition manager. They're in charge of meeting the acquisition goals. Under them, you have acquisition agents who do out the mechanics, right? They source the deals, they underwrite the deals, and ultimately they get approved by the acquisition manager. Here, we have the project manager who's in charge mainly of the budgets and the timelines. Underneath the project manager, you have a field assistant who's in charge of day-to-day, you know, managing everything that happens on site, you know, is the contact for sourcing all the contractors and managing the subcontractors. Under that, you have a field coordinator who's basically an assistant to the field assistant. We have design manager who basically sets out, hey, the layouts, what are we gonna do, as well as picking materials. General coordinator, think they're the admin for the construction department. Dispo manager, they're in charge of hitting the sales numbers that we want. And underneath that, the dispo agent is in charge of executing on the dispo manager's goals. Now, we have director of administrative services. They are dealing with all, think of like every admin function for the entire company, right? And making sure that everything is being gold, basically the whole gambit, right? Bookkeeper, in charge of doing the bookkeeping day to day. Now we have marketing manager who's in charge of all our marketing efforts for the properties, content, and anything that has to do with marketing in the company, right? Underneath, investor relations, basically keeping the investors up to date, kind of sharing updates, and just, you know, making sure the relationship is intact. Not every single person does one thing. Multiple people here are wearing multiple hats. For example, CEO is also acquisition manager. Operations manager is also marketing manager. Investor relations, dispo manager is also design manager.
So Hector, I see that most people take on several roles. Can you talk to me about team culture and like how do you have all these roles? How does that look like in the day-to-day?
For us, it's day one, right? We're a startup, so we have to run very lean. And yes, multiple people are wearing multiple different hats, but that's because they're aligned with the vision. They really care. They want it to succeed. If you have that, if you have the culture, then they naturally will gravitate. So they understand different parts of the machine and how it all works together. And we have a long-term vision.
Right, so everyone owns their departments and what they're assigned.
Correct.
Lovely. Alrighty, so let's check out some next properties we're going to take a look so we can break down the numbers before we go and visit them. So out of the 15 active properties that you have at the moment, we chose 3 different ones. Can you break down in what stage they're currently in? How much did you buy them for? How much you're putting in construction? And how much you're projecting to sell them for?
Okay, so this property is an added level, so we're basically going to build another house on top of it. Purchase price was $465,000, renovation budget is $300K, and the projected sale price is $1 million. So this, the purchase price was $425, renovation was $105K, and the projected sale is $680. Here, purchase price was $510, renovation budget was $1.3, and the projected sale is $3 million. So now we're gonna go back and see where these properties are actually at. So this property is still exactly like we bought it. We're waiting on permitting. We already took what we're gonna do to the city and asking them for approval. So we have to sit tight and wait. Next, we're gonna go to this property. This property is all dried in. That means basically the foundation's done, the shell is up, windows are in, and they're roughing up the property. That means HVAC, electrical, and plumbing are almost done, and so it's gonna be ready for inspections. And last, we're gonna go to a property that's fully finished. So the property is actually already under contract and should sell very soon. So the idea is, you can see 3 different properties in 3 different stages. When we buy it, in the middle, and at the end. And this is who actually runs the show. Our fearless leader, our operations manager.
Basically, as operations manager, it's my job to execute on the CEO's vision. So this year, for example, we have to hit a revenue goal of $20 million. What that means to me is I have to make a game plan. How are we gonna hit this goal? So first thing I start with is I reverse engineer from the $20 million goal of sales, and I see, okay, these are the amount of sales that we have to hit. Then I see, okay, so this is the amount of acquisitions that we have to do. This is the timelines that we have to do for the projects. These are the budgets that we need in place. Then it's just about tracking everybody's performance. So everybody has to be tracked by their performance and their output to make sure that we're on track for the goal. And that's where I come in. I just have to make sure that everything's running the way it's supposed to be so we get to where we need to get to.
Every founder has a story. Take us back to where the dream started, because where you are today wasn't where you were yesterday.
I think in 2019, me and my family were really struggling. We were looking for an opportunity, and we saw real estate as a vehicle that could get us, out of our situation. Problem is, when you start, you don't have a lot of money. We had no experience. And that combination usually makes things a little bit tough. But there was an opportunity we saw through a house hack. At the time, I didn't know anything about flipping, but I knew real estate. At least the original idea for me was to build a portfolio, right? So we bought a property. It was a short sale. It was in rough shape, but still livable. So we were able to use conventional financing with 3.5% down. We borrowed the money. From the very beginning, there was trials and tribulations, right? We just had problem after problem. It was a short sale. It was about to be foreclosed. First, we couldn't get the CO. So we failed the CO inspection. It was our responsibility because the seller had no money. So we failed that 3 times. We were about to buy the property. Then, they said, hey, you guys actually have to bring a little bit more money down. But we didn't have any more money. We had already borrowed money. So then, we kind of asked around to see who would be willing to give us some money. We offered them a little bit of interest. We were able to make it work. And then right before we were about to close, we were told that the property was scheduled for a foreclosure sale.
You took too long to buy it.
We didn't know anything back then. I just remember my mom crying. But then hopped on Google and I saw, hey, New Jersey, before property's gonna be foreclosed, you have a redemption period where you can go in front of a judge. So then we kind of sprang into action. We kind of went to the courthouse here in Bergen County and just asked the judge, hey, listen, we're about to buy this property. Just give them an extension, just give them a little bit of time. The judge did. We actually were able to close on the property. 2-family house in a little bit of rough shape. We knew we had to increase value. But the very first thing, we started part by part because we didn't have any money.
You put your sweat equity into the house.
Correct. So that means me, my mom, my stepdad, we started with the second floor. We painted the cabinets, changed some of the lighting fixtures, we glazed the tub.
Well, YouTube University all the way?
YouTube University, because if you don't have any money, then all you really have is your time, right? And so we, had a job, my mom had a job, but got out of work, and as soon as we did, we'd spend the next 6-7 hours just working on the house, painting it. So then, boom, we got that property rented, the second unit, and then we started working on the downstairs. And it was over the course of, I would say, a year and a half, little by little.
Transforming the property.
Transforming the property. I remember that was even stressful even then because we first had to pay back the money that we had. So then all the money that we made from our jobs went back
to the mortgage.
It went to the mortgage and also paying back the people who had borrowed money from.
You made the impossible possible just pushing forward.
Any little money we had, we focused first on paying back the people that we owed money to, and then just really taking out credit cards. So me and my mom took out as much credit cards as possible, and then with that we bought materials, and then a lot of it ended up being ourselves. But it was more like cosmetic. We weren't, ripping apart houses. It was
that gets a lot more expensive.
We didn't have any technical knowledge. We went piece by piece. First, hey, let's focus on the basement, right? The basement is semi-finished. One night we just demoed out, me and my mom. We went to bed at 3 a.m, but we tore apart that basement. There was mold behind the walls.
Oh, no.
And then we just paid someone, a handyman, to come, put the drywall in, get that ready, helped him out, learn how that worked, and then just paint the house. And then we ended up putting, vinyl flooring, the cheapest one we could find, and, moving furniture, painting the house. And then eventually we were able to refinance that, pull that equity out, and, we were thinking of doing the next property. And then we kind of got diverted for a little bit because we thought that because we had learned some construction, we would open up a construction company, but the goal was always the real estate. We just thought, hey, at that point, I didn't have a job, so I was like, okay, we got a real estate license. Let's go out there and make some money while we wait on the refinance.
You learned about construction at that point. That's where you started seeing some type of vision from the situation that you had.
Correct. Really out of necessity, right?
Right. And that was what, 2019?
That was 2019. We fast forward to 2021, when we were waiting on the refinance. We thought, hey, why don't we open up a construction company and we be the GC on our own projects. But like always, things don't go as planned. I still had expenses, and I was like, why don't we go out there and sell these services to someone and
build the business.
It was supposed to be a temporary thing, and then I sold the first contract, then I sold the second contract, and then I was like, wow, this construction thing could be a business. Maybe we should use this so we can make more money. And then that led down a long path. But we had a lot of early success. Like, I was focusing on just the sales, and then I started building out a team, and then our vision from the real estate kind of pivoted for a while. The first team that we hired, they weren't the greatest. At one point we had 23 people, but I realized that we were always running out of money. I tried to increase the efficiency, but I had already ingrained a bad culture, right? A bad culture of like excess, like the money doesn't matter, we can always move more sales.
You never really protected the money, and so your bottom line was non-existent because it was just always leaving.
Correct.
Faster than it was coming in.
And then we had borrowed money also to keep growing that business. But once I really truly understood the problem, which in my opinion, the core was the culture. So then I kind of downsized. It was painful. It was a very painful experience because, I still cared much about that team. And then myself, I focused on just one product, which was just basements. Building a great product at, the most efficient price. And so then I was everybody. I was a salesman, I was a project manager, I was a field assistant, I was an operation manager.
Yeah.
So basically everything that was required for that. But in that moment, I realized how hard I could work, how much I could personally do. And I focused really on learning, like the nitty gritty, the mechanics of every single thing that is required to run a construction company. And then, I made that business highly profitable. By year 2, we had built one of the best reviewed companies in Bergen County on the construction side. We have this skill set. Why don't we now get back into the real estate side? And we started with the first house, but we were still running the construction company. So we had multiple different projects. We only spend money on stuff that actually mattered. If it doesn't make us more money, we don't need it. Focus on actual profitability, focus on delivering a great product, and that was our philosophy.
You started buying these properties, and then what?
Yes, it was a gut renovation. It was in Cresco. We bought it in the summer of 2023. That was really the start of Pilla Investments. Then we bought another 6 properties. People thought I was crazy, right? Don't you want to take it slow? Don't you want to slow down? But I already knew what it took to actually execute on these projects.
Because of the construction.
Because of the construction, yes.
And obviously you were scarred from building such a big team. What made you want to build up another team in this real estate investment company?
So in the beginning, I said, how do I make myself more efficient? The first thing was taking someone that actually could take care of the administrative process, all the paperwork, trained that person, and then took it to where, hey, this was the most we could do with that. And then little by little, building out the next thing, and the next person, and the next person.
Talking to a business owner who might fear delegating himself out and having others do the tasks worse than what he could have done, what advice would you give them in terms of delegating tasks the right way?
You have to understand that regardless of how hard you want to work, you will always be beat out by a team of people, because everyone on my team currently, they understand the mission, they understand the points, they understand that we're only as good as our weakest link, right? And so I ingrained that from the very beginning. Like when we do interviewing, everyone interviews them on how great it's going to be working at this company, how amazing it is. I do the opposite. I tell them this is going to be the most challenging thing you've
Think
ever
you'll
done.
scare them away?
Yeah, but then you can filter out all the people that are not going to be a right fit, because that is the culture that we've built here at Pilla Investments. We want to win. We think like a high performance sports team. Everyone on the team is important. Whether you're doing admin work, whether you're a field assistant, we are only as strong as our weakest link. It's kind of building a meritocracy, not because of some familial relationship or a personal relationship. It's based on your merit. So I love to give people more responsibility, but they have to perform. I want everyone to grow. I want them to be the future leader of this company, but nothing is given. Everything is earned.
We just got here to the first property. This property was just purchased when?
Week ago.
Nice. And now it's scheduled for demo when?
When the permits are approved.
So let's walk into this baby, let's check it out, and let's see in what conditions this property is in.
Well, you guys are in for a real treat.
What's the story behind this property?
Fire damage, mold, asbestos, and we don't care because we're gonna do an attic level, so all this stuff is gonna be gutted, thrown out anyways.
Right, so in the case where a retail buyer would come here, they don't want to buy this stuff. It's too much of a headache.
Would you want to buy this?
No.
So here we're gonna do an attic level, so that
Meaning?
basically this is a Cape Cod. We demo everything out, demo out the second floor, and build up.
I mean, is this a difficult property for like a newbie investor?
Yeah, I mean, there's multiple different factors. You're gonna have to gut everything, structural components, mechanicals.
Yeah.
This is basically like new construction, right?
Are you gonna be like adding square footage? Like
Yes, we're gonna double the square footage.
all of this garbage here. I mean, are you guys gonna save some of it, or like what's happening here?
It's unfortunate when we walk through these houses, makes you think like this is someone's life, right?
Yeah, like even like movies.
Once the permits are approved, then we'll come in here, we'll demo everything, all this will be in the garbage. In the beginning, we try to salvage some things, maybe it could be reused for another property, but our model is really based on velocity, right? So then, we would lose more money trying to salvage stuff. It's
Then
just
to
everything
just
goes,
put it in the trash.
put everything in the trash, yeah.
Okay. What's the timeline? Break it down.
Permitting usually takes between 4 to 7 weeks. Sometimes it's even worse. The actual construction will probably take about 2 months. We work very quick. Velocity central to our model.
What, like in 5 to 6 months this is on the market?
Yep. We're now repeatedly doing this in 5 to 6 months, sold from
Right.
purchase to sell.
What's happening in the back end as you already bought this house?
When we buy the property, we already have a plan in place. So we have an in-house design team. We work with an architect that's basically in-house as well. So then we basically know, hey, this is what's gonna happen. We have everything already within the first weeks basically planned out. And we know what materials we're gonna use. We know the takeoffs exactly. And it's just about executing the plan. And one of the most important things is sticking to the plan.
I mean, I know right now this is demo, then we're gonna go to a house that's already in the rough stage, like in the middle, and then we're gonna go to a house that's already finished.
Correct.
So let's take a look at what an ugly house looks like, because you take the trash that no one else wants.
That's our motto, right? This is where some of the original fire started. So basically kitchen fire. So all this had to be demoed out. The person who bought this house before us, it was an investor. I think they maybe didn't have the experience.
So this wasn't directly from the seller,
No.
like the owner.
No, it was from a different investor.
They failed? They couldn't produce what you're trying to achieve?
The thing is, we do everything in-house, right? It's part of our vertical integrated approach. What does that mean? Vertical integration means you just control more parts of the process. So all that gives us a lot of advantages.
So because you're able to come in and produce that outcome of the ADA level at a lower cost, you're able to beat out a lot of investors.
Yeah, I don't know if they were gonna go and actually do an ADA level. I don't know what their strategy was. Maybe they thought that they could come in here and do a cosmetic And then they started getting the GC quotes, and then you know how the GCs are. So I don't know if you want to go down here, because this is the, you know, what happens when you leave a property a little abandoned. You want to go? At your own discretion, at your own risk.
Let's go.
That's mold. Most people, when they see mold, they're like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. You know, when I see mold, I'm like, it's an opportunity. I smell money.
No one can live in these standards. So someone has to come and revitalize the community.
The money that flows from it goes to the contractors, to the subcontractors, material suppliers, the guys that are working on site. They're going to eat at the local pizzeria, the permitting fees. It's a whole lot of capital that is really injected to the community, and that money's going to cycle. And ultimately, right, we're going to have a family come in here. They're going to be part of the community. They're going to have a great house, and you know, the taxes are going to go up. So it's a net positive for everyone.
So Hector, I know you're gonna add in a lot of value to this house. I mean, what's the end square footage bed and bathroom count here?
So this is gonna be 5 bedrooms, 4 baths, and it's gonna be 2,400 square feet. We add as many bathrooms as possible, as well as we added a nice big size master, right? Because we're gonna more than double the purchase price.
Nice, so up here, I know you're gonna do the attic level. All this is gonna be gone?
All this is gonna be gone. We're gonna raise the ceilings. We're gonna make it 9-foot ceilings on the first floor. And then all this year, we're walking in right now, brand new.
You can't even walk through here. It's like a hoarder's house. Like what?
Well, we typically take the house as is. We basically waive everything. The only things we don't waive are environmental. In our area, there's like oil tanks. If we find an oil tank and then we'll do a test, right? If it's below grade, we have to check that there's no contamination because we don't know what it is, right? And so in that case, we have them remediated first before we take possession of the property. Then everything else, we'll take it as is, right? So that means this house, you know, if we had bought it from the owner directly, we would take it exactly like it is right now, regardless of what the appraisal is, regardless of any other contingency, right? Basically, we're offering them cash or cash equivalent. If we say we're gonna buy during this day, we give them certainty. Typically, we give them a good price. If they need, let's say, 3 to 4 months, we'll give them that time frame.
Alrighty, let's go ahead into another property, which, you know, the next property is gonna be in its rough stage, meaning like you're not gonna see any of this stuff, but like what, the framing, right?
Yeah, you're in for a treat. This is a great property. You're gonna love it.
So if you're enjoying seeing how Hector finds these hidden deals, do us a huge favor. Hit that like and subscribe button so that we can continue bringing more New Jersey founders and business owners to you. Watch along as we continue touring 2 more properties in different stages of construction. So Hector, we know that you invest only in one specific market. Why is that?
It's just looking for inefficiencies in a marketplace. And in Bergen County, there's a lot of structural things that make it difficult. Like first, you have very high asset prices. You have very limited supply. You don't have that much distress, and it's very permit heavy. So the way I think about each of these projects is like a mini development. You have all these things that make it very difficult. Make it specifically just to start and even more difficult to scale. But if we solve for these challenges, you know, it might have some more complexity in the beginning, but there's not that much competition, right? There's less competition in the sense that people that are looking to scale, there's a lot of, you know, smaller investors that do a lot of projects, and then there's the really large developers. But there's not too many that are just starting out and scaling because of the difficulties I mentioned out. What can we do to actually work here, take advantage of the opportunity? And I say opportunity because if it's hard, we can solve a difficult problem. Because we haven't reinvented a wheel, we just have a better model, right? We just think about every single thing like an engineering problem, and then, you know, tweak it here, tweak it there, do all these different things. It's part of our vertically integrated approach, right? By doing all these different things, we're not relying on, you know, 7 or 8 outside parties. It's much harder in the beginning because now we're solving, hey, acquisitions. How do you standardize that? How do you do underwriting? How do you teach someone to do that? What about the management? What about the construction? What about the design? What about, you know, the disposition? All these different...
Competing in Bergen County has made you want to bring everything in-house. And that brings you what kind of advantage to Bergen County as you guys invest heavily into the county? So
we went specifically, since the beginning, the projects nobody else wanted. Most of the time it's construction or it has some sort of permit issue or, you know, some sort of violation. Most people don't want to touch those things because they're hard, right? They're a hard problem to solve. But if we just look at it like, oh, wow, it's hard, so not that many people are going to want to go after it, that's actually an opportunity.
Not just buying ugly properties, but buying properties that even normal investors don't touch. Correct. So you've learned to take on projects that require higher skill sets and expertise to execute. How does that allow you to compete with the other investors in the market trying to grab the same high demand, distressed properties that you're looking to acquire as well?
We don't think about them. The competition is us versus us. How can we be better?
Alrighty, so where are we at right now?
We are in Paramus.
Alrighty, and then right now, this is one of your new construction builds?
Yep.
So what's the story about this house? How long did he get it? I know that new construction, you take a lot longer to build it out than the other homes that you do, right?
Yeah, so we saw the opportunity with this lot. We initially had a house on it. We were gonna do an add a level, and then we were offered a whole lot of money to do nothing. So basically, it's a builder or developer wanted to buy it as is. There was an offer.
So you bought the existing home here, and then another developer offered you money for it.
Correct. They were willing to offer me so much more money than I picked it up just a few months earlier. I wanted to take on the opportunity myself, but we had setbacks, time. You know, we honestly didn't have the experience at the time when we first bought it.
Isn't your usual model like what? Because I know this is not usual to what you're used to doing in your current business model, right?
No, this is not.
So what's the current business model and what is this one?
So currently we focus on, you know, properties that are in significant distress.
Yeah.
Like I said, tear downs that we can add square footage, add levels, heavy rehabs. But this was a forest back here. And so this actually, we had to take it from the ground up. There was nothing.
Okay.
So we actually just went through a major redesign. We wanted to make the property even better.
Doing the design on your other properties is way different than this.
Correct. We basically left it up to the architect, thinking that all architects are built the same. And he designed the house. We didn't have the know-how, right? This is such a big lot for Paramus. Everything, the site plan, the whole nine. We just ran into a host of problems here. So then we had to learn everything very quickly. We had to figure it out, resolve, move on. And then we got this framed out. From the moment that we actually started, it took us about 7 weeks, right? And part of that because we had to raise up the house, so that forced an elevation change. When you move a property up, if you have designed it like, let's say, the backyard, the front steps, you know, this has a huge 3-car garage, right? You have to think about so many different variables that you don't think in a flip. Like, especially in the initial parts, the design, the grading, the water, you're thinking of how are we gonna build the driveway. This would be similar to a flip, but this is like a large 9,000 square foot custom home.
So what is this property gonna go for?
$3 million.
In the last property, we saw that was an ugly home that it was about to be demoed. Now we're in this property. You're beyond the demo stage because you did a demo here, right?
There was a house right up front over there.
Right, so you took it out and now we're actually building ground up.
Yes.
So how do you go about like designing such an expensive home?
It's the same exact process, but in this case, we do have so much more latitude to create a unique property. At this price point, yes, the money matters, but more importantly, they're looking for that wow factor, that home nobody else has. And for us, is let's create it, let's value engineer it, but let's give them as much value. Let's make it so that it's easy, quick decision to say, I love this house.
Yeah. How do you go by understanding what they love and like what people buy?
Like everything else, you study the market. So I wasn't studying $3 million homes. I was studying $4, $5, $6 million homes to see what they did. Like what type of amenities do they have? What were the design features? From then on, we say, hey, how can we build basically a $5 or $7 million home, you know, for a $3 million budget? Every single component of this house is custom. We want to make sure that when they walk into this property, nobody else is going to have this exact same house. We want their other rich friends to be jealous. Let's just say that.
Yeah. Talk to me about the challenges going into this new business model of new construction, because for the longest time you've been doing flips.
Everything. So the permitting process is also a lot different than flips. You know, we've done luxury development in Jersey City, but there was an existing structure where we basically kept the foundation.
Straight up from zero.
This was just straight up from zero. And so we had terrible plans. The site work plans were terrible. We lost a lot of time on permitting. Whenever I do something new, I just assume I'm ignorant, that I know nothing.
Yeah.
And so then what do? I just do massive amounts of volume. I just focus myself on that thing and just read. You know, I would attend open houses. I would just look at it. And I started seeing that what we were, you know, in permitting for was wrong. First thing was like we moved the house further back to give this like an estate-like feel.
Right, you guys have a massive backyard, yeah. And how does this fit into your current business model? Because obviously you guys have always done flips, so now you guys are dabbling into new construction, luxury.
2.5 years ago when we started, we couldn't go and say, let's build a 9,000 square foot house.
Oh, you're gonna hit yourself against a brick wall.
Yeah, exactly. You know, this requires a lot of capital. It's very capital intensive.
Yeah.
This requires a lot of skill sets that we didn't have. And so we always knew that in this market, this is always part of the thing, because we're gonna take the profits from the new construction and then the commercial division, park it into commercial assets. That way it builds up our balance sheet. We wanted the machine to work independently. So the moment that we think it's right, it's when, can I leave for 6 months? Does revenue grow? Does profitability grow? Do the bank accounts grow? And if the answer is not yes, then we have to work on optimizing that first.
That starts off from the smaller projects, and you use the same concept as you go up in the levels, like we're now today in the rough stage of a luxury new home here in Bergen County.
Yes. This is gonna sound funny, but once it is boring, it's just rinse and repeat, just like the flips, then
You go to the next level.
then we go to the next level.
How long does it take to do this?
On this project, so from the time we signed the documents and the paperwork for the new loan, from the dirt to actually have it what's called dried in,
Yeah.
it took us about 7 weeks. And really, I know it could have been done a lot faster. The only reason that we took that is because we ran into every problem we could have possibly had.
Yeah.
At every single level, you're gonna have to learn new skill sets. You're gonna have to evolve. Your thinking evolves, right? That means you're gonna solve a different problem.
What advice would you give to newer investors watching this, wanting to scale their business, and they're starting off with 2, 3, 5, 10 transactions a year, but now want to up that and then want to dabble into new things like new construction?
Just be comfortable with pain and suffering.
Especially
People
as a
ask me
business
like,
owner,
what's
yeah.
the secret all the time. It's the #1 question I get asked. I think the secret is the work. Know that it's gonna be difficult. Know that you're gonna have challenges.
Right.
Know that you're not gonna have it all figured out. But take the leap of faith, because you'll realize, yeah, this is hard. Yeah, this is challenging. But then most people will never take that leap of faith. You can read 100 sales books.
Unless you're out there in the field actually, doing it, you won't learn as much.
Yeah, the story of my career has been no, 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 impossible, impossible, impossible. I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 25 years. Hey, you must be new to this, right?
I guess that kind of craziness, you need that in order to have that hockey stick effect that you're now having, where in less than 3 years, you're already dominating your market, which is crazy because like you said, there's many people that come to you with 20 years of experience and call you crazy because you're more aggressive than they are.
But most people have a limiting belief. They believe that they're only this or that, or market standards, industry averages.
Right.
But really,
They need to understand that to be extraordinary, and they need to go against the current, which is them having to go against everyone who tells them no.
correct.
Now, I know that the longest thing here is permitting, so construction must go so quick. I mean, how are you guys pushing so hard in terms of speed?
Sebastian, it's 5 degrees outside. Do you see?
Yeah, it's like you have deadlines that you
have
make
to.
sure you hit.
We have to. We have to hold ourselves accountable. We are accountable to the project. We have deadlines. Every project should work exactly as we model, right?
What's the square footage here and like bed and bath count here?
6 bedrooms, 7 with the basement bedroom. Then bathrooms, it's 8 bathrooms. And the whole cubic space of the building is about 9,000 square feet. I think we'll be done in the next 3 months.
Even though right now we're in the rough stage.
Yes,
You have the renderings for this?
yes.
Okay, so we'll show it right here so you guys can see what it looks like. Hector, I know that the design is so important in a luxury home. Like, talk to me about the important spaces. Right now we're heading into, what is this?
This is the master suite. We were really going for, you walk in, you feel like you're in a presidential suite, right? Because in this price point, it's a lot different than, the projects we showed you. Here, amenities matter, right? It's not just about how big the house is. How different is this property? Like, you want someone to fall in love with it. You want them to be like, this house has to be mine. I deserve this house. It's not just about how large the house is, but how how unique the property is. We would love to be able to do what we do here in those other properties, but there's only so much. So we have to give them the best value, but we don't have the ability to, give them a master like this. This is close to 2,200 square feet. This is bigger than most of the properties we sell.
I know that our next property that we're going to is how much? Like 1,300?
Like 1,300, yeah.
Yeah, and this is how much?
$2,200 approximately.
Just the primary?
Just the primary.
Can you break it down? Because this is crazy.
Look, this is our primary suite. Look at this here. We're gonna have a fireplace. Look at these windows. Look at this, almost 12-foot ceilings. They walk in here and someone's gonna fall in love. They've never seen something like this, except if they were in a $5 or $7 million home.
I love the phrase that you said is like learning what the $4, $5, $6 million homes have and building that in a $3 million home.
Yes, exactly. You could look at your pool. These are huge windows, nice natural light. You wake up, you like read the Wall Street Journal. Life is good. I'm in my own little resort.
So this is what happens during that first phase of construction, which is the design, understanding and like walking the house before it's even built.
I had been looking at everything that has come on the market for a long time. And at this point, I could start picking up patterns. I could start seeing, hey, why did this property sell for this much? Why did this one sell for 7 million and this one only sold for 5? They're approximately the same size. What did they do differently? Right here,
2,200 square feet is a lot.
Yes, a lot. So here you have basically a small bar, you know, where they can use as a coffee station. Here you have the man's closet. So it's like a walk-in closet.
All of this is a closet.
All of this is the man's walk-in closet. Now you have the bathroom here. You don't want the toilet out, right? You want it separate area.
Covered. So,
plus right here, everything here is gonna be super custom built. And that's what makes the difference too. But look at the size of this bathroom. It's gigantic. Here you're gonna have a woman to be able to,
so it's all this.
all this whole thing is cabinetry.
Okay.
Look at the size of this. It's insane. Look at this for the shower. You can literally have a party in the shower.
Wait, this whole thing is a shower?
This whole thing is a shower.
Bro.
It's basically we call it the wet room. And then here you have the shower. So then you can literally be like, oh yeah, let me work out in my shower.
Yeah, it's like a bedroom in some cases in other homes.
Yeah. If they're walking through 10, 15 different houses, you know, they're gonna spend $3, $6, $7 million. Like, they're not going to one house, right? And so we want to give them a reason to say, holy.
A lot of people can't see what you see. And what you see is what allows for you to break comps. And how do you teach that to other investors who are trying to learn to do the same, where they break comps as well because they knew the vision that it would have taken to get there?
You just have to be willing to know the details, to know more, to basically...
Obsessiveness?
You could say obsessiveness, but not just in that one thing, but everything that goes into the different process, every single piece that actually go, I like to call it the mechanics, right? And then from that, you can tweak the mechanics and say, hey, how can we do this better? How can we do this in a form that nobody else does? Because maybe you're going by industry standards or market standards, but then you're gonna be doing what everyone else does, right? And if you really wanna build something unique and you have a really big vision, then you have to be willing to go against the curve. You have to be willing to operate in a different way.
Right.
And it all starts with you. What it is that you actually want to do, and don't be afraid to dream big. Don't be afraid to have a huge vision, because I know this is gonna sound, you know, a little funny, but we're all gonna die. And so why would you not want to build the most incredible life that you can, right? Have the most impact.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, if you're solving for that, economics will always work themselves out. Don't be afraid to fail. As a matter of fact, look at failure as a prerequisite for success. The woman's closet is disgusting. Look at that.
That is not the female's closet.
That is the female's closet. And the $5 to $7 million homes, they all have these huge closets.
This is bigger than my room.
This is bigger than the second floor of the house we're gonna go to next. I'm not designing this house for myself, right? I'm designing the house for the end user in mind. They're gonna have everything here, like 2,200, it's gonna be like even better than a presidential suite, honestly.
It's crazy. It's like half of this second floor is the primary suite. How do you know not to overdo it in terms of finishes? Because I know you guys have margins. Building a $5 million home in a $3 million home, you know, so that you can be competitive, wouldn't that hurt your margins?
It's part of a vertically integrated approach, right? By doing the construction, we can value engineer the same product.
Because you guys own more of what other quote unquote investors can do. Because sometimes they sub it out, they do all this stuff with people that, you know, they need to pay a premium to, a middleman, and you guys own everything in-house. Alrighty, so we're now in the garage. Talk to me more about why you chose to build it this way.
So it's a 3-car garage, 16 foot high. I hope not to sound like a broken record. We're thinking of a $5 million buyer. How do we bring that $5 million buyer to this property and think they're getting the deal of a lifetime, right?
Right.
If you're at that price point, a lot of these guys, they have a lot of cars. Here you can install a carport, and so now you can have basically 6 cars. You have a huge driveway, Even the basement, look, 9-foot ceilings. It would have been 11 feet, but when we found the water, the trench level, we were forced to bring the house up, so the basement got a little cut.
So here in the basement, what's the thought process here?
Amenities galore, details galore. Right now, you're stepping into the game room. Then you're gonna have a wine cooler, climate controlled.
Does this have a movie theater at this price point?
Yep, this is a gym. This is a big open space, so they can actually come down here, another like family space that they can have. This has a lot of these. Right here, a wet bar, huge bathroom, you know, so then you have closet within the bathroom. Nanny suite, right? So then basically they can have someone or the help. You know, at this price point, some people, you know, they have big families and they want, you know, the space for, you know, someone else to live here.
So this is where they would live.
Yeah, they would live, and they have a huge bathroom here. Here is basically a snack room, right? It's a movie theater and there's a snack room.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, I think we've covered a lot of this property. How about we go to the next one?
Let's go next.
So Hector, we're here at the last property. This one is in its last stage, which is, what is it on the market?
It's under contract, actually.
Okay, so it's under contract. How long did this take to fully get this property to where it's at? It's actually gorgeous. Do you have a lot of properties usually in this stage of construction, or?
Yes, we always want to keep our pipeline filled because you want to have, you know, cash flow coming in. So that means you got to have the properties in construction, but you also have property sale because real estate is capital intensive. So that means liquidity is a big issue. So you have to make sure that you have properties in construction, properties in the pipeline to be bought, and properties that are going to be sold.
And this is the last stage.
Yeah, so under contract, it's our disposition phase when we sell the property, and then hopefully next few weeks this property will be sold.
Nice. And so what's the backstory of this property?
So this property was on the market for a very long time.
Okay.
You know, it has commercial influence.
On the MLS, like on market?
Yes, on the MLS.
Okay.
It had the commercial influence, you know, it has a 7-Eleven in front of it.
When you say commercial influence, like why is that bad?
Well, think about it. If you were gonna live in this house, you had kids, you don't want it to be, you know, a lot of people coming and going, you know,
Right. So
noise.
this isn't really too residential.
It's not. This is the main road, right?
Right. I see that there's a lot of like busy, it's a busy street over there.
Yeah, again, put yourself in the buyer's shoes. If you have kids, right, you know, like let's say you want them to go out and play, you know, it's dangerous, right? You know, it's less desirable, right? Busy road, double yellow, that typically takes about a 5% hit to the ARV. What does that mean? That means if this property were not on a busy road, it could probably sell for 5% more.
Yeah.
Typically 5% more. Also, the commercial influence. So that's another negative, right?
Right.
So as an investor, you know, you're thinking of the ARV or what the property will eventually sell for. That means this property is going to sell for a lot less. Plus, you had 70-year-old property. That means all the mechanicals, electrical, plumbing, HVAC were outdated. So those would be needed to be fixed or replaced altogether.
That's why like it was sitting on the market for so long?
That's why it was sitting on the market. It also had some slight structural issues. All those combined are like all negative factors.
But for you, for Pilla Investments, why was this something that you guys took on then? Because it was sitting on the market and then you guys acquired it. So what was the strategy here as you guys started construction?
It's actually super simple. Put yourself in the buyer's shoes, build the best property they can, build the best product, and optimize for creating that product in the most efficient way.
Did you guys come in and like do some touch-ups? Like I know some flippers that come in and just do like a lipstick on a pig. I think that's what they call it, where they just, you know, put some paint over here and just hide some stuff. What type of construction did you do here? Did you rip stuff out? Like just...
The classification would be considered like heavy rehab. So we did all new mechanicals, electrical, plumbing,
Mechanicals
HVAC.
all that is expensive.
Yes, but the thing is we have a vertical integrated approach.
Was the layout bad when you first got it?
This property hadn't been touched in 70 years, right? So it was working with really bad layout, and so we kind of opened up the floor plan.
Maximizing the space.
Maximizing the space, yes.
And like how do you go by like choosing like the finishes, the colors, the design? Like what does that look like?
We use the same finishes on, depending on price points, right? Up to 700,000, we use the same exact finishes. 700 to 1.2, it's a different type of finishes. After 1.2, then, you know, we'll design it and then we'll make it more custom.
You mentioned that there are different finishes per price points. In this case, what was the price point of this home?
So we put it on the market for 670. It ended up going under contract in less than 2 weeks.
Like what type of finishes does a property in that price point get?
We realized at this price point, most investors are just doing, like you said, lipstick on a pig. And so we try to actually add value. Think about this island. This is quartz countertop, nicely designed. Look at the size of the island for this house.
You don't usually see this in this price point?
You would see it, but maybe not this type of quartz, maybe not this type of cabinets. Like look at these built-ins, right? Look at this built-in microwave, even the appliance package. Think about the details. Look at this. This all costs a little bit more, but at the end of the day, they're gonna be walking to 10, 15 different properties.
It's one of their biggest decisions.
HVAC, for example, mechanicals are really expensive, but we still do it, right? Because we want someone to, 5 years from now say, hey, this is a great house. I lived in it. I didn't have any issues. I'm sure you know all the horror stories with investors, right? Investors typically get a bad rep. And the reason is profit maximizing, and they don't really care about the product. But we want to stay in this market for a very long time. So when we think about something, we don't think about the next quarter or the next year. We're optimizing for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And so we're going to make decisions now that long-term align with what we're trying to build.
This looks all beautiful. How long did this take you to make? I mean, this isn't such a big house either.
For something like this requires permits, right? 5 weeks for permitting.
Meaning like the process in which the town approves the construction.
Yes, so design, permitting, putting everything in the game plan into place, and then about 7 weeks with actual construction. It could possibly be done quicker, but the problem is we have to work with the municipalities, and sometimes they're understaffed, so they can't really, adjust to the timelines that we have.
Right, and how big is this house? What's the bed and bathroom count? And does that influence a lot the timeline too?
It does to some degree, right? Unless it's gonna be like a 4,000 square foot house, then we're gonna have some timeline. But between, this one is 1,300, between 1,300 and 1,700, it's basically the same thing. 3 bedrooms and 3 full bathrooms.
Was that what it was before you bought it?
Before it was 3 bedrooms and 1 bath. So we added 2 additional bathrooms.
Okay, so Hector, so we explored 3 different properties today. Now the real question is, how can someone build an investment business like you have? Obviously not in the exact market, not with the exact business model, but at the end of the day, success leaves clues. So let's give the viewers a blueprint on how they can, get their wealth building started or get this type of business model on the way.
I think one of the biggest impediments for people is they want to know it all. They want to have all the information. They want to have the perfect plan. And I think that's a fallacy, right? I think that you have to be willing to know you don't have it all. You don't know it all. Like in our company, for example, we learn by doing the thing. And so we don't have a traditionally super intensive process. It's more like, hey, we give them enough instruction and then we go out there. And yes, you might think that's crazy because maybe we might need a huge amount of trainings that exposes the company to a lot of risk.
I mean, putting someone out there without much training, exposes a lot of liability,
It does, but again, I think the prerequisites, you have to be willing to try, fail, and be okay with that. Know that failure is just part of the process. And then combine that with just so much volume that you kind of bend probabilities. Real estate is, you hear it all the time on social media, on YouTube, all things. Look at this strategy, look at that strategy, look at that strategy. But I think core to it, you just have to keep it simple. Like choose a lane, whether that's wholesaling, whether that's, you're gonna provide some sort of service in real estate, or you're gonna be the real estate investor yourself. Just get started. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait till you have your idea fully formed out. That's why all these courses and all the fake gurus, they're just like, they're so enticing because it's like, if you just do this thing, then boom, you're a millionaire overnight. But really have a long time horizon and just focus on being really good at one thing and then the next thing and then the next thing. Listen, it's gonna take a long time, but if you just get started, I think that's your highest leverage thing because 95% of people have the skill sets, have maybe a lot more than what you think you need to get started, but they just have to take the jump. They have to take the leap of faith.
Right, and just commit to one path and not just divert into so many different paths and never really take action and execute on one thing long enough to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So Hector, moving so fast in this industry, you must have such a different culture and a way of thinking where you get more done in a week than most companies do in a month. So talk to me about how you just push so hard to get the transaction volume that you have in just starting this business 2.5 years ago and now reaching 8 figures.
We always look at other people, we look at their success, We look at what they've done. We just see the end result. We just see the success. We don't see what it actually took. Like most people, they'll be like, hey, I worked a 40-hour week. I'm exhausted. Now it's time to relax on the weekend.
Yeah.
And then you see the guys that, are actually killing it. You might only see the glimpses up because they only show you the highlight reels, right? But most of them, they put in a tremendous amount of effort. Think about it. Someone works a week, 40 hours. And then you have guys like us that work 100 to 110 hours a week. But what happens over a course of a year? You could do what takes them 4 years in 1 year. Now, what if you do that again and again and again? It's just massive amounts of volume. But most people are not willing to do that trade-off.
And so how do you build that lifestyle into the business where all you do is work? What about everything else? How do you involve that without losing your family, without putting money as your God? Like, where is that balance?
Well, I love what I do. I wake up every single day, I'm ready to go. And I'm lucky enough that everyone that's close to me, that I really care about, works alongside me. My operation manager is my sister. I work with my mother, my stepfather, all the people that are closest to me that I care most about. My girlfriend works with me as well. So I don't have to make that trade-off. So for me, it's not about making that, hey, lifestyle. This is my life because I wake up and I work with them and we're on phone calls. And so we get to share the good stuff and the bad stuff together.
So Hector, let's go into 2026. You've done very well for yourself in this last year, and now you have a very ambitious goal for 2026. Talk to me more about that vision.
So in 2026, we want to have $20 million in sales, and we want to do $35 million in transaction volume.
How can someone, a viewer who wants to get into real estate, maybe needs help getting their foot through the door, how can they partner up or work with Pilla Investments?
So we do have a program called Learn and Earn, where they invest some capital, basically become a private lender. Think of they become the bank, and they get a one-on-one mentorship once a month. They can go on the field to the sites. We do Zoom videos, and we also have basically exactly our model for here for Bergen County or North Jersey specific. A lot of the stuff that we do is not super complex, and we just give them the roadmap. Afterwards, we do provide other supports and services so they can get started. Or they could just work with us as a passive investor, as a private lender. They basically take no risk and earn a return.
Right, and what kind of returns should they be expecting as they put their hard-earned money to work with you guys?
Depends on the project, right? But it can be 12 to up to 15% if it's going to be a long-term, luxury development project, but it's also going to be a longer time, right? So it all depends on where they're at, the amount of money they have to invest, and ultimately, what is the risk appetite.
And how can someone get in contact with you guys to, get that started, either the Learn and Earn or earn passively?
Well, they can reach out to us via email. We have our contact information on our website. Also, they can send us a DM, and our contact information is also on our Instagram and other social medias.
And everything will be linked below in the description of this YouTube video. Hector, before we get going, is there any last words that you can leave our viewers with?
Whatever it is that you want in life, whatever goal that you have, don't wait till you have it all figured out. Just go out there and get started. Because what we've done is not out of the world, and you could do it as well. We are the proof.
You've heard it first from Hector, CEO of Pilla Investments, and like and subscribe so that we can continue bringing more founder stories to the public so that you can be impacted from stories like Hector from Pilla Investments.